Okay, so today I'm going to be doing something fun. At least I think it's fun. I'm going to be adding a stereo to my tractor. So this guy has a harness kit and a mount for you to add a stereo at some point. It was never done. Looks like it's the standard size radio, so we're going to have to figure out which wires to tie into inside and run the speakers and do all that fun stuff. So let's get into it. Something you'll see is that there is already a knockout just next to the driver's seat here. So we need to get that out. I believe we get that out. Let's see if it just pops out. Oh, it does. Oh, so there we go. And it shoved so full of something that's gross. Oh, insulation. Oh, hey, check that out. Oh, super bonus. Oh, man. Crazy bonus. So there's the wiring harness. That is awesome. That is going to save some time. So I've lifted the cab up. I'm now sitting inside the tractor. You'll see there's the back of the radio box to help protect it, and then this is the radio. This is the harness that's already built into the tractor for the radio. So we'll open that up. I have a wiring schematic we'll go inside and look at and figure out exactly which wires that we need. I'm going to pull this off, pull this down, and probably get the radio kind of test fitted in there. Okay, so this came out pretty easily. It was just one bolt in the back, and this has kind of a flexible mount here. It really helps for getting it out. Clean it up a little bit, and what I've got is what came with the radio is this bracket, and so that's going to slide inside here. And I'm going to mount it pretty much flush with it. So what I need to do is drill some holes, mark the holes for 4 mount holes on it. I'll mark those and I'll put the screws through. I'm just going to mark these mount holes the best that I can. Okay, I'm going to step it up in size. So one thing you'll notice here is the screw comes way too far into here. And they obviously give you big screws, so you could, you can go through the metal of the car frame, but we're only going through thin plastic, so what we're going to need to do is we could either cut these screws or we could use some washers and shim them out a little bit, so that's what we'll do. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is remove these pillar bars. Looks like they just kind of tuck in there. Got one of those plastic fittings that I really need 2 hands for. Okay, I couldn't get it fully off, but there's a rubber grommet back here that I'm going to run my wires through. So maybe clean this up a little bit, and I'm going to need to pull the top panel off as well, so we can run our speakers in here. Wow, yikes. So there was a couple of corner parts in here. One there. One there. There's one in the center here. And then it's kind of tucked around the rest of this stuff. So, what was a surprise is that there are speakers in here. So that's strange to me, because there was no holes in the headline or anything, like there should be. And I have new speakers. Looks like it runs down into this connection. So that's interesting. And there's another connection here that I don't know what that runs to. There's one there, and there's one over here. I think this one actually belongs to the backup camera. So here's where things get interesting. Here's the new speakers I've got. You know, they're not the greatest speakers, but they're still rated pretty good on Amazon. They probably sound a lot better than these paper ones. So I just wanted to make sure. It looks like there's going to be room for it to fit there. So I'm going to take these out and swap them out with the new ones. One of those is close to the right size on the new one as far as the connectors. They're a little smaller. So we have to put a new one on that. No big deal. Most important part is let's see if it's going to fit and if these holes are going to line up. So yes, that is great. That means it should be a fairly easy swap here. Now, I'm not a car audio guy, so I don't know. There's a particular way, if this matters where it turns. I'm just gonna put it this way because that's where the logo is. I was trying to figure out how to trace these holes, and so I decided to do is put the new headliner, or the old headliner, temporarily back in, and I'm gonna cut holes in the center of these and kind of work my way out until I get the speaker hole. So here we go. That looks pretty good. So these have some big covers, so that's awesome. So now I'm going to take this all back out. Ta-da! So another thing this stereo came with is it supports Bluetooth and therefore pairing with your phone, and it has an external Bluetooth microphone. So I need to find a place here that I would like the microphone to go. So after a few minutes of playing around with it, I think I found that the corner of this mirror is a really great place for it. It's got a nice pivot on it. It seems like that'll hold pretty well, and I can stick it a little better if I want. So now I'm going to tuck this cable in behind everything and route it down towards the back. Sorry, it was a little hard to get a camera angle showing what I was doing here, but what I ended up doing is finding a hole between the plastic and the cab of the tractor where I could route the cable. Now, I didn't want to take these plastic panels completely off because that would just add a ton of time and labor. So what I did is ended up just kind of prying the panel up a little bit with a screwdriver and tucking the wire behind it. And while doing so, just making sure that there wouldn't be any pinch points or there wouldn't be any possible chance of vibration to pinch or to chew at this cable over time. So after playing a bit more with this metal frame that mounts the stereo, I really didn't like it in that plastic boot that you saw it in earlier. So I brought it into the cab and noticed that it fits a lot better in this cutout. All that I needed to do is put it in here and then bend these 4 metal tabs. And they just get bent out a little bit because I still plan on putting that plastic boot over the whole thing to protect it. Okay, so something that I did is I printed up one of the schematics that has the radio harness in it. And unfortunately it doesn't really outline how the speakers connect. So, but when I look at the harness, I can see I've got red, black, and yellow, and then these, which are going to most likely be your speaker cables. So, I believe that red and black is going to be constant voltage, and we can check it with a multimeter, and then yellow is the AC switched, so that will turn on the radio with the ignition key. And these will be your speakers, so we just need to identify which one is the left and right. So I have an idea how to do that. And then this is the harness that came with the radio, so we're going to adapt that to connect to here. So we'll probably cut off this factory end and splice this one in. What I'm going to do now, I'm looking at this harness. I can see the different colors on it. And I believe those actually might match the inside, so I might not have to tone this out like I was thinking. So it looks like what we're carrying about is the purple, brown, green, and white. And I believe these 3 are power and these 3 are speaker over here. So let's go into the cab, see if that's true. So I've got the cab raised right now. I was about to lower it when I realized that I can see the wires through the window here, and I can see that I've got green and brown and white and purple. I just need to know which one I'm shooting for, positive and negative. And so the fat one on this side I can see is brown, and green is the small connector. And over there it appears that, well, I can't see. I might have to go look at that a little closer. So I put the cab down just to be sure. Didn't want to do this twice. So over here, the larger one is purple and the smaller one is white. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna figure out which one is the always hot line by doing voltage, and I stuck one in here into the red, and then I'm gonna go to ground. And I've got 12 volts. 12 volts on my meter, so that means the red one is the always hot. In theory, this other one, this white one next to it, should be the key activation, since 12 volts when you turn the key. So I'll just verify that by putting this in here and seeing if there's no voltage on that. So white is going to be the ignition key and red is going to be the always hot or active. Okay, so what I did real quick is I made a quick sloppy writing of what the wiring harness was. So what the machine wires were, what was actually in the harness that I found, and the actual stereo wiring harness, which is this one over here. And so I wanted to map them all out because you can get confused real quickly. So you can see here, purple is the positive for the left speaker in the machine. Into the wiring harness, it's solid white. Into the stereo, it's white. It seems like they followed a color code as far as the stereo harness that actually matches up with what the car stereo harness was. So that's good. And even when it comes down here, when it comes to the wires look reversed, but it actually matches correctly. So it was black on the machine is black, but red on the machine is yellow in the harness and yellow in the machine, which is actually white is red in the harness, and that matches up with this, what stereo harness will be. So now my lovely wife is about to solder up all these connectors for me. So I'm going to take the, this is the factory harness that goes to the CAT stereo, and we're not using that. So we're going to cut this end off and we're going to wire it to this harness. Okay, so we've got a beautiful harness here. My wife did a lovely job on the heat shrink. What we're going to do is we're going to plug this in to the harness that is in the tractor. There we go. Got a nice click for watertight seal, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to push it through the hole I made for the radio over here. So I've got the speaker kind of temporarily hooked up. And I'm going to connect the radio now. Just one back in the back. And in theory, when I turn the ignition on, it should come on. So let's see what happens here. Nothing. Oh, there we go. Came up. So that's good. You can hear it beeping. I can hear radio. Well, static at least. So that's a good sign.
You happy?
I'm happy so far. So let's get this finished up. So this was the antenna that I found with it, and I found a hole here and decided to try to put it here on the outside of the unit. I think maybe it was supposed to go on the inside through that grommet that I pulled out, but I don't know, I don't really like the antenna being inside a steel cage. I think that will affect the reception, but I mean, I doubt I'm ever going to use the radio, but I found the parts to it, so might as well install it. And if I don't use it, I don't use it. There we go. So then that will go into the back of the radio. Got one giant hole in the back for all the cables. And these were my accidental marks, so I need to glue those up. Okay, so we're going to put the control box or the shroud for the radio back in. It protects it from the elements. You'll see we put some tape over the silicone that we just put on here so it doesn't get out of the control and get all over everything, and we wipe it up inside so it looks nice. So now we're going to attempt to get it over and under and through this harness up here. Tight quarters there, but with some creative maneuvering, you can get that all in there correctly. The next thing I'm going to do is get this on here. This just supports the back of it so it doesn't flop around constantly. Okay, it's on there and tight. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the cables inside there. So here's that grommet that goes between the inside of the cab and the outside. I'm just going to drill a little hole through it. So hopefully this hole is big enough, and we're going to try to poke this microphone through. And luckily rubber is stretching, so it's a good fit. So after I installed that grommet with the cable running through it, that was the last thing I needed to do before I could secure these cables and silicone up the hole that I made in the back of the box that protects the radio. Now I was pretty liberal with the silicone here just to make sure that I got in all the nooks and crannies, and no points for cleanliness on this one. Okay, so I got the headliner back in. I cleaned it while I was out with some, the only thing I had was pet and stain remover, but I cleaned it. It looks a lot better. And now I've got the wire through the holes, and I am going to attach the speaker. The holes that were there were big enough to use these, there was these little clips that go on that allow you to thread these screws into them, so I didn't have to drill them out. I just put those clips on there. We fought with this for hours. Screws weren't lining up, things weren't really working, couldn't figure out why. It was getting dark on us. I was getting frustrated. I had my wife tag in to try to do it. She was having problems. And it didn't make sense until the next day, and here I'll show you why. Okay, so here's the metal clips that I put in, and the screws that came with the speakers actually can fit through those holes and into the clips, which is great because that means I don't have to drill those holes out or anything. They are threaded from the previous speakers, but I wanted to use these black screws that came with the speakers because they're decorative and they fit this just perfect. So I found this to be kind of a frustrating process, so I'm going to put some tape on the back of these to keep them from moving around. What was actually happening when I was trying to put this in is the magnet on the back was sucking these off and into the magnet and causing a lot of alignment problems. So I'm going to put some tape on those, and I'm also going to cut out a little area here because this was causing some interference. When I tried to screw it on, it would send the screw weird direction, so I'm just going to cut out a little area around each part of those so the speaker fits easier. Right, well, I got the speakers in, and those were kind of much more of a pain than I thought they were going to be. I used those little metal clips, and if I had to do it again, I would not use those metal clips. I would just thread them and get black screws that match these, and when I pull the headliner down the next time, I probably will replace those because they were kind of a pain. They don't really thread super tight. So, and considering the amount of violence that this cab will probably be enduring during work, those might come loose at some point. So I'm going to put that on my list to fix the next time I take the headliner down. So now we're at the final radio install, and it came with this foam in the kit, which I believe I'm going to put on the back to help with sound insulation between the cab and the motor. We've got our cables fed through, we've got them siliconed up, so I'm just going to feed them through the foam. Okay, that seems to fit pretty nicely back there. Now I'm going to connect the back of this. And so here's the big connector there. And here is the speaker connector. Just goes in there. And then the next one is the Bluetooth microphone. Which I'm gonna have to get this really close because I didn't give myself enough slack. And that plugs right into the bag. Like so. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, but maybe pull it out. There we go. There we go. So that's installed now. I forgot that these old radios used to do this for theft. Okay, so now, moment of truth. I'm going to turn the key. There we go. Came up. I'm gonna connect something Bluetooth to it and see how it sounds. So I connected my phone to it via Bluetooth and started listening to some copyright Disney music, so that's why you can't hear it here. So that'll pretty much wrap up this video. Thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing.
Oh,
Stay there.
past Bob, really messy. So future Bob, when you're looking through all this stuff, you're thinking, God, my wife put up with all this. Just know, that's crazy. It's all your mess. Oh, okay, I was wrong. Those are mine. Right there. Those are mine. Yeah. Everything else, yours. All your mess. Oh, and the bike. The bike is mine. That's from working with Bob. That's from working with Bob. I think that's all I got right now. Hey guys! Do you guys want to come out? Roll around on some concrete? Hi, Arpie! Hi! Hi, Corbin! Are you trying to communicate that the knob is up there and that's what I need to grab?